What's up, you nerds? Welcome back to Yellow Spandex. This episode, we talk about the movie, the live action, the legendary Street Fighter. Bada bing. What's up, guys? How are you?
Pretty good.
I made the mistake of not having edibles before the movie.
True. Which is actually simultaneously super funny because of the Zoom chat we were in earlier that we'll probably talk about a little bit, but
This was a movie.
Yeah.
Very loosely based on a video game.
Yeah.
Real quick before we jump into the movie, something big happened this week. Did you guys see the season 2 Mandalorian trailer?
No.
Oh, I didn't see there's a trailer.
You didn't see it? Okay, well, I guess I have to spoil it now because I just went to go look at it again, and they gave it up because it was the #1 trending video on YouTube for like 2 days. But it also has more dislikes than likes.
Why?
Because it was a parody.
Oh.
And they got a lot of hate for it because everybody was wanting a real one.
They hate art.
Yeah, well, it was presented as a real one for 420 on the official channels.
So
That's
there's no
awesome.
new footage.
Kind of. I mean, there might be stuff from the new season. It just ends with teenage baby Yoda smoking a joint and flipping everybody off and telling them to go fuck off and,
See, I was only like at a semi this whole time, and then when you just said that, now I'm like fully like at attention.
I was gonna be like, oh, okay, everybody go check it out. But now when you go to the thing, they've changed all the info. It says parody in giant letters across the thumbnail and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
But I thought it was pretty funny because I was watching it because part of the hilarity of it is like you watch it like, oh my god, and then you're just getting, I was getting excited of all the new scenery. It's like, oh my god, there he is, and then they're like, you don't know what you have, and then it shows the top of Baby Yoda's head, and then it pans down and he's just like smoking a joint, and he's like a few years older, or like human years older,
Yeah.
and then he just like flips the bird, and then everybody's just arguing with teenage Yoda and stuff, and I was like, that's so funny because but now
Is this Teenage Mutant Ninja Yoda?
but I don't think that it'll have the same effect now that the thumbnail already says parody because it's not like funny on its own. There's not any jokes besides Yoda smoking a joint.
Right.
But if you were getting excited, and then it was like an Andy Kaufman thing. Like I thought it was hilarious by the time it hit me,
Okay, yeah, I can see that forward direction.
But that was hilarious. It became like #1 trending within like minutes, and then now it has like about 100,000 or 1,000 more dislikes. Than it's like 72,000 likes and 73,000 dislikes.
That's great.
On it's so funny.
That's
Anyway.
It's becoming like a cultish thing.
So if you know, you know. If you didn't, then they kind of spoil it now because I guess everybody hated it, or not everybody hated it. Enough people hated it.
Well, speaking of cultish things, this movie.
Yeah, Street Fighter, the movie. So this was kind of, I mean, all of us wanted to see it, but Josh kind of suggested it, and I thought it was a good idea.
Same here. I mean, I kind of just went along with you guys, but because I remember, like, Rod was, what did you say? You're like, I didn't remember that it was this bad. Back then. And I was like, I remember just how bad it was.
Well, maybe it's because now, we've been in like Hollywood long enough to like kind of know, when I say know how movies are made, not that like we've been on the set of like Star Wars or anything, but everybody's making films, so you kind of see like how takes are taken and stuff like that,
Yeah, we have a better perspective.
It was just so weird. It's like there were so many like reaction shots where it was clear that the person didn't know what they were reacting to, but the director's like, be shocked.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very similar thing with the way we cut stuff today. So when we're watching these movies, we see the edits and the cuts, and we're like, that didn't even make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, yes and no, but the thing, like, it's going to happen. Like, it happens in movies today.
Yeah.
But, like, it shouldn't be apparent. Like, like the eye lines match and, like, just reactions match. Like
they should, yeah.
I don't know. And then there was specifically one place that might have happened before, and I don't know if it was in the original one or there was something they were trying to crop out, but there was one specific shot that lasted for like a second and a half where like all the Shadow Lu soldiers like were running in or out of a building, and it was so clearly like zoomed into cropped footage. Mm-hmm. Like
we were like, what was that camera?
Yeah, why did that crop in like that? And then just went away.
Just some random shot that didn't even match anything else.
Gosh.
I think there was a lot of moments like that if we look at it in the technical sense, because there were times where I was like drifting off of like a focus, and then all of a sudden something weird would like be loud, or like color would pop crazy and would suck me back into the movie.
I like that the explosions were like literal fireworks. They weren't actual like explosions.
That's what I was saying too. When the car or the tanks or the car blew up, I was like, "What is it? Fireworks?"
Well, the thing with the weapons, yeah,
it was like Roman candles, like in a box or something.
Yeah,
going
Vince
off.
was like, "Why were there fireworks?" And they're like, "Well, duh, those were the weapons." They were supposed to be guns, though, right?
Well, I said it was better than the tennis ball shooters.
Yeah,
but see, that was on purpose.
True.
Like, why even
like that?
Put tennis ball shooters in it at that point? Why don't you just have a big box full of nothing? I don't know.
For people who have no idea what we're talking about, Ken and Ryu.
Yeah,
they're scheming.
They were like selling some weapons or something like that,
trying to make some dough, quick dough, man.
Which is
like,
so weird.
I get that they put those in place to fool. I guess their plan was to fool them long enough to run away with the money, you know?
Right. Everybody seemed like that was everybody's plan.
Yeah, but the whole thing about having Nerf guns basically in there was that was so 90s. So I was like, okay, you know,
it was really cool.
That humor reminded me of that, you know,
and how serious everyone looked too, like cocking the guns. You're like going through this like montage of people like touching them, and then they use them on Ken and Ryu and tennis ball shooters.
So I remember the opening with ChunLi so vividly with Ming-Na win. That might have been the first time I saw Ming-Na win. I'm not sure, but I think so.
That was great. Her through the whole movie was fantastic.
Yeah, I think she was definitely like the best actor.
Yeah.
She definitely played like that 90s like heroine, you know. To the point where it was very overstated that she was like the anti-misogyny, you know, because all the most of the guys in it were, I don't know, no, they had to know they were making a bad movie. Because, like, some of the guys had some, like, weird, like... I get that they used to be in those movies, but they went out of their way to, like, be really creepy sometimes, you know?
Definitely.
Like what?
Like, I remember, like, M. Bison said, like, you can come to my place as long as... Oh, no, Geils, like, it's like, maybe we can meet after this if you come in that dress. And I was like...
It's like
okay, like
all this insinuous things,
but also
you don't. You're like, what did he mean by that?
But also, it didn't help that Jean-Claude Van Damme. I had totally now the room makes so much sense. Why Tommy Wiseau thought he could make that?
Yeah,
because like Jean-Claude Van Damme was like not too far from a Tommy Wiseau performance in this.
Yeah,
in his dialogue.
Have you seen Van Damme movies though? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen them all, man, and I've like dragged myself through them, but.
I love some of them, but
The Quest was one of them that came up.
That Universal Soldier. I love Universal Soldier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
As long as he like does the spin kick, like that legendary Van Damme double spin kick, and he did. So I was happy.
It was wanting too much suspension of disbelief for me. Because we already opened up with like, I'm somehow gonna believe that this accent is the all-American soldier.
Exactly.
Well, that's fine. Okay, so that's the first disassociation, and then it just kept drifting further and further. Like they named him William for some reason. Like it was most of these characters. It just I felt like the writers, the screenplay writer, whoever wrote the script, didn't know the characters in so many ways, and we're gonna keep getting more into that. But with Guile, like. They're like William something Guile, unless there's some lore there. And, you know, admittedly, I don't know a lot about Street Fighter lore.
Same here.
I don't ever remember him having like a first name, middle initial. You know, I thought it was just Guile something. You know,
it was just like his tags, right? Because
oh, that's a good question. I wonder if his dog tags in the game showed.
Like a W something.
I don't think so.
Guile.
I mean, I just did a quick search and it still just says Guile. It still doesn't say his real name anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of Guile, let me like rant a little bit because I heard, or it could be just my head because this would just be something that I would create delusionally. No, just playing, but like rumors that Van Damme wouldn't do Guile's haircut because he's Van Damme. He's like, I know I'm gonna portray me. It's gonna be me. But I'm just so, you know, just so happens to be that I'm Guile. So he was like totally against doing any like prosthetics or anything like that. I think I remember something like that.
He didn't feel like Guile to me.
No.
And the movie, much like other like Super Mario Brothers or the Mortal Kombat movie and stuff, I feel like would have been much better movies had they just not been associated with the properties that they were associated with, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could let loose of all the weirdness that they were trying to force, like everybody's costumes randomly at the end of the movie, and like Balrog's got boxing gloves on, and
I asked
he's
about that. I was like, where do you get the boxing gloves from?
Yeah, my whole, I remember, because I haven't seen this movie probably almost since it came out. Like, it's been that long, and going back, I remember it's pretty much the same, like, as I remember it. Like, I remember walking into it and being like, why is this doing this? Like, why are these people like this? And there's so many weird storyline to try to force all these people together. I get it, because like the original, at least at this point in time, like there's more lore now than there was then, obviously, but up to this point in time, it was basically a championship to go around the world fighting people to win kind of like the honor of going to fight this tyrannical, horrible person. So I guess they're trying to do that. I guess they're all trying to fight to see who could fight M. Bison, but I don't know.
That's part of like what I was saying. Like, it felt like whoever wrote this wasn't aware, like didn't know the story. You know, like, 'cause there wasn't a lot of story. Like, pretty much what you just said was the story of the time the movie came out. That was the story of the game. And they were like, that's all you had to present to us. We didn't need a backstory of like hostages that we only saw at the beginning and the end. And like, now Chun-Li's backstory, I believe, was the original one, like that she was avenging her father's death.
That's cool.
I don't know if she was a reporter. I do remember when I first saw the movie, I was like, oh, Chun-Li's a reporter. And then I found out she's like undercover. I'm like, sure. You know what? We can do that, because at least at the core of it, she's still like a warrior.
Yeah.
And then she snuck her way in. I don't know how much I bought the whole like E. Honda and Balrog were her film crew thing.
That's funny, though.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, Balrog kind of, because he kind of mentioned something about how he was kind of a has-been boxer because of something that happened with all this, you know? E. Honda was a little confusing because if there's anything, like, there's so little backstory behind pretty much everything, all the characters of Street Fighter, that the most identifying thing that they have besides their look is their country of origin.
Right.
And they went out of their way to explain that E. Honda was from Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah. That he wasn't Japanese, he was actually Samoan or whatever.
Yeah, which was interesting, because I was like, I mean, I guess it's not that important, but at the same time, it's weird that they went out of their way to say you're from Hawaii, right? And like, that added nothing to the story.
No.
Like, he could have just been a character, you know, in there, if they didn't want to make him like purely Japanese, because they had this like Thailand or Vietnam setting. And it's like, if they don't want to do Japan because of whatever reason, then he's just him. And then, you know, like we kind of feel in our heads like where he's from, or we don't care where he's from, you know?
His best scene by far was getting whipped twice and have no reaction at all. And then what's his face asks him, how did you do that?
Yeah. That's a good segue. So that was one of the things I kept telling Vince. Every maybe 3 minutes, I was like, everything is so sexual in this. Like, the way things are framed, like, I kept waiting for Ken and Ryu to make out and stuff. And then it came to a head at right after E. Honda got whipped, and Balrog had figured out how to, like, break out of the chains. So he looks at E. Honda and he's like, can you give me a hand here? And E. Honda's like, hey, I've only been in prison for 2 hours. And I was like, I did not catch that as a kid.
Yeah. He's like, I'd need a month before that.
Oh, gosh. I loved Geils' bad hair dye. I don't know if you see that at all. Like, his hair was like dyed on the side. You could tell like it wasn't all the way dyed.
Oh, good.
It was like that was the only thing he would go as far as doing.
If he would have just had the flat top like he normally has, I'd have been. I was like, all right, fine. I get he's Guile and his hair isn't like crazy like a tree like normally. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like a tree stump.
I also don't know why they chose Guile to be the leader of this story. Like, I think it would have been much better, because the people that are kind of like the mains in the game are Ryu and Ken.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they call him Ryu too. So, but
American. Yeah.
I kind of get making Guile like the lead, especially after casting Van Damme.
Yeah.
But just because the era, everything was like this gritty realism, and so having like a military setting, I guess, kind of made sense. But I get you. Like, I was just like, okay, sure, you know.
Yeah.
And the casting for Ken was like awful. Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, I would, unless they, which they did, they kept calling him Ken every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have known. But you know what was surprising was when Ryu and Ken first popped up, I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot that Ryu went on to play Kovac in Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so wild. Because I think both Ryu and Ken were like not great castings for this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Ryu, but at the same time, I don't feel like their story was anything close to the game. I mean, it's just weird.
I was unclear. Did I miss something, or did you guys catch what is their story? The only thing I caught was that they trained together. But are they like scammers, or like what was going on there? Because I couldn't quite figure out like what their motive was until they changed to, like, save each other at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
But
seems like
along
they
the
were
way-
stealing from bad people, but that's also being kind of bad people. And at the end, he's like, "Oh, well, I'm glad that I, met you because I didn't want to be you," kind of deal. So
That's the only
don't
time
know.
I got a clue of like what they were doing.
Was that one conversation with that other person? I forget who it was, but yeah, he said like that doesn't make it good any better. They're doing
Saget.
the Robin Hood thing, but they're not giving the money back. They're just keeping it,
yeah, pretty much.
But then like so with
stealing from the
Ryu and
baddies.
Ken. So that's the thing though, is like visually I thought like Jean-Claude Van Damme, like besides his hair not being right,
Yeah.
like okay, that fits as a Guile. I could say that he's like a very chiseled like white guy, that I believe would be in the military or something.
That arm shot. Cut to that arm shot.
Seriously,
Yeah, that's his ending pose in one of the Street Fighter games,
it's like American flag on the arm.
Cammy, I thought was a really good casting, except that
She was the best.
I don't know if she's the best, but like she was, to me, Vega was the best.
Vega, huh?
He's
Like
pretty
he's
good.
exactly what I imagined a real life Vega would have been.
As far as that, I would have to reconsider. And say,
Cammy was really good, except that Cammy and Chun-Li.
yeah.
I don't know if this is generally like this, but I think Josh, I think you sent me a muscle, like a bodybuilder dressed up as Chun-Li once a while back. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how most people, if you haven't, you can go look it up. There's like a bodybuilder that did a Chun-Li cosplay, and she's so muscled up, like all over, especially in her legs and stuff.
Redonkulous.
And that's how most fans or like perceive those two characters from the game being in real life.
Yeah, Cammy would have
they're super
built
jacked.
legs too. Yeah.
Yeah, mainly because Cammy's moves are almost all legs. She does scissor kicks and stuff like
Flips
that.
and kicks.
But
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Besides,
Definitely
that, if
looks like the most like what the character is.
yeah, like if they weren't going to go
It
for
was between those two.
if they weren't going to go for the muscle up,
Yeah.
then Kylie Minogue worked out, and she was a known. It made sense. She was like a big star at the time. She had a lot of hit songs, around the world. She's also British,
I love her. Yeah, I love her accent.
But that's the thing is, Cammy, she was British. That was her whole thing. Is she was the British version of Guile, the British female version of Guile. It was a whole. She was added. It was weird. That was in the era when Street Fighter 2 had like 16 variations.
Oh, yeah.
So
Whoa.
like Cammy was added in as the new Challengers edition with T-Hawk and everything.
And DJ was in it, and it was when the Super Street Fighter came out. I don't know if they had that straight to arcade at first, or if that was like a Super Nintendo port.
It was in the arcade. I remember it being in the arcade.
What year was all that?
Well, 94 was the original, or no, not 94. 91 was the original, and then it just kept having different iterations of it.
That's what because I didn't follow Street Fighter very closely, but it's not like Tekken where they're in like 10 or 11 or whatever, or like a Final Fantasy where they're even further, right? There's only like 3 Street Fighters, like legit.
No, there's five
now?
or 6. I mean, that's only counting like numbers. They had Street Fighter Alpha. There's a bunch of.
That was 4, I guess.
No.
I don't even know.
Street Fighter Alpha is completely separate from the numbers.
Yeah.
No shit.
Well, they even had Street Fighter the movie, which is based
the
on
game.
is like basically like Mortal Kombat, where
That's
everybody
what we
was
played
pictures.
in that arcade, right?
Yeah, I remember that game so well. And then near where we live, there's a barcade that has it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is how I know this barcade is legit. They have this deep cut.
Yep.
It's so deep.
Okay, let's talk a second for that game.
That box is a meme in itself.
That game is the most broken fighting game like ever, because you can look up somebody else talking about this, but apparently there's a whole horror story about them making this game. Like that Capcom hired out a third party to do it, and I forget what company did it, but the company that did it wasn't very good at what they did. Anyway, they came out with another game that's historically bad.
Ooh.
And they're like, why did you hire these guys? And then they only had like a day with all those characters. and a few things happened. I think like Raul Julia had already died.
Yeah.
And they were already like trying to hide his scenes in the movie as they're finishing.
Wow.
And so someone else plays Bison in there. They decided to put Akuma in there, even though he wasn't in the movie at all. And then so the only character that doesn't appear in the Street Fighter movie is Fei Long. And he wasn't in the game either, which is really odd because I think in the Capcom like contract or something like that, they were like, you have to include all the characters, you know? And then no one really explained why Fei Long wasn't in there, but then all of a sudden this Captain Sawada was in there.
Yeah.
Guess what that guy's real name is?
What?
Sawada. Like that's his actual real name.
Oh, crazy.
I think there's like these urban legends or some hearsay or whatever that someone financially involved with the movie had a vested interest in this guy and was trying to make him the breakout star of this movie.
Whoa.
How? He's like barely in it.
That's the thing is like he doesn't exist in Street Fighter lore at all.
Yeah.
And
Sawada.
And he was put into the game.
What?
He's
the
a
movie
character.
game.
Yeah, the movie, the game.
Yeah.
And even though he had no powers, and I don't even think we saw him fight in the movie. Or if we did, he was in the background with a bunch of other people. But in the game, they gave him this whole power set and everything.
No shit.
And then I didn't notice as bad before, but like before I knew he was like weird. But then we rewatched it just now. It's like all his dialogue is ADR'd. It's so weird.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of ADR actually in this movie.
There's a lot of ADR, but I don't know. I don't think it's him doing his ADR.
No.
Oh.
It sounded like a completely different person.
Because then he did his best scene is the one where he's speaking in Japanese, I think.
Yeah.
And then they cut to that Godzilla gag.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Which,
a lot
let's
of
talk
gags
about-
in this movie, man. There's a lot of stuff going around in the background.
Oh yeah.
I
Let's talk about those for a minute.
So I think that was a strong point in the movie is the 90s humor.
Yeah.
And also DJ is the only one that's aware that's a bad movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You said he's the audience.
Yeah.
I loved so much when they cut to E Honda and Zangief, I guess.
Yeah.
Just like stomping away on that model.
See, I do think Zangief was a spot on casting.
Yeah, he looked
Yeah.
it.
He looked it, but he also he's in what I imagine Zangief was going to sound like. He was big enough, you know?
He had the scars
Yeah, by the end, like all of them had their final form. Like
and the
Zangief,
weird chest hair.
Zangief had the scars, the weird chest hair. Sagat had the slice across his chest, you know?
And the one eye.
But yeah, Zangief, whoever played him, like that was spot on. Like I thought he was kind of like a dumb big oaf, you know? And
I yelled out to Rod. I was like, man, I wish they would just cut to Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk for Blanca.
Seriously.
Because that would have been better.
Makeup and whatnot looked awful.
Oh, God.
He's pretty much like, it was like the Hulk, only it was probably worse, to be honest. Like the fighting was just not, I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't there, man.
it was weird because like Zangief was a great casting. I didn't even think Balrog by the end, when he was at the gloves, even though they didn't explain how he got them, he looked like the character I remember from the game.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like they had to over accentuate that like giant like haircut that he has, like the M or whatever. And it's like, why? What's the even point of this? Like you're picking and choosing so many things that have no bearing, like no meaning for this movie, like to actually happen.
It was interesting too. I don't know why. They had to have been a conscious decision, but so many of the characters had their, I don't know what you call it. You know when you both pick the same character in a game and then the second player gets the color swap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many of the characters had the second player color swap.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Like
Chung-Li had it.
Chun-Li had it. Guile was blue instead of the green.
At least at the beginning. At the end where he had like all of his, he had like the tank top off. He finally looked at least similar to his normal counterpart, but
Yeah, but it was the blue that is the second player color.
Yeah.
When he had the tank top and everything, he never appeared in his green, and Chun-Li never appeared in her blue,
Yeah, it was red.
which is so random. Yeah,
And she never did the kicks.
she didn't do the whirlwind kick. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't do the lightning kick either.
That's what I actually wrote it down here. I was like, man, Chun-Li never did the super kick shit. Because I didn't know what it was called.
there's only one real like superpowers, like the one point in time where you kind of see a flash from Ryu.
Oh yeah, with the
Ryu.
Hadouken. But he doesn't
And-
say Hadouken.
No.
No,
it
he
just
doesn't say it, or
flashes.
maybe he mouthed it and tried to say it, and they just didn't. They cut it out, but
And then Bison, and then he gives that whole explanation of how his power works and all that.
yeah, exactly. Like that was like there was that one shot of Bison though, like fighting with all the TV monitors in the background, actually looked like a scene from the video game, though.
Kind of, yeah.
There's like the one shot where they're kind of like on the stage going back and forth, like from one side to the other. It's like, oh, at this one point in the movie, it actually feels a tiny bit like that video game.
You know, when you're talking about picking and choosing details, so they had obviously scrapped the whole idea. I don't know if you guys remember what M. Bison's like stage looked like in Street Fighter 2.
Nah, I can't
It was kind
remember.
of like this outdoor fighting arena in Thailand, and there's a giant bell in the background.
Oh yeah, you were talking
And-
about the bell.
Yeah, and I remember this is back when at recess there'd be all these rumors about Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and we were like, oh, you can go into the bell, blah blah. It didn't do anything; it was in the background. But so we just threw that away to have this like command center, which is fine, whatever. It's a movie, But then out of nowhere, that giant bell is hanging in the middle of that room.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was there before or just at the end scene.
That's another one of those, like the Godzilla thing. They threw
Just
like
random.
he just gets banged on the bell a few times.
And then the Capcom like fighting joysticks on his console for some reason to control the mines.
Yes.
That was pretty funny.
Did you see the Capcom barrel?
Yeah.
The Capcom barrel.
He almost winked at the camera when he showed it, like the way he opened it up.
Bison's my best scene for Bison is when he's behind the curtain thing or the separator, and he's throwing his clothes up. He changes into his smoking jacket, and he comes out, and then he changes his hat to his sleeping hat.
Yeah.
He's got the M. Bison robe going on.
Yeah, and he's got like a hat for different hours, man.
Oh, and then he pans over, and he's like a painter too, but he's painting himself as a sad
Yeah.
clown.
Yeah. It was kind of funny how they kind of painted, no pun intended, M. Bison to be kind of like this weakly narcissist.
Yeah,
But at the beginning, he was strong. I don't know. It's
confusing.
I don't know, like what the thing is or what the rules are in this universe.
you know what really confused me was his ending. He gets zapped and dies, but then his chest starts like
Compressing.
and he turns into this other thing, I guess.
It's adrenaline and stuff, and
So in the game, I do remember him having like a berserk mode or something like that, right? You beat him and then he like gets super strong and you got to beat him again.
In some of the versions, yeah.
Because I remember that. So maybe that's what it was.
Or if you're playing, depending on what version you play, it might be Akuma might come and beat him up, and then you fight him. Or
That's
something.
right. I remember that too.
I mean, this is one of those things that I can't be surprised that they didn't follow from the games because of Hollywood and everything in the 90s. But like, if they were going to be accurate, instead of electricity, it would have been fire, which would have been really cool, but probably expensive.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing in all the Street Fighter games was either blue or red fire.
That's yeah.
yeah.
Because Blanca was blue.
Well, they couldn't
Blanca's
even like
thing.
give the boat
Or, I
like
mean,
an
it's-
actual see-through. Like it's stealth. It's like, well, for one, let's just go back a little bit. You're going to end this movie with a stealth boat.
I actually wrote this down as well.
Like, what on earth are you thinking? And then for two, like, okay, it's going stealth, and they put down these plastic visors on their helmet for some stupid reason,
I
and
made
then
fun of the
it's
scene
barely
so
like
much.
see-through, like not even.
Yeah. But all right, so yeah, this scene cracked me up so much. And I talked over the entire scene because I was just sort of like, what the hell was that? What the heck? The representation of the stealth mode was ridiculous. Like it looked like they were going into like warp speed.
Like,
They
guess
even
what?
had visors.
We're gonna try to sneak in there with a freaking loud boat. How about that?
Also, yeah, that is so large that it cuts through the water and leaves a visible gap. Which happens in the movie, and Bison looks out and he's like, "What? Why were they? Where were they doing?"
They're all looking at it like,
Well, they start
oh.
blowing stuff up too. Like, okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna go in here like a stealth, and they start shooting things up, and they're like, oh, well, what's going on? And then if they wouldn't have shot anything, like apparently with movie, they would have just snuck in. But they're blowing stuff up around.
Holy
I
crap.
lost track so many times of like who was going where and why they were doing stuff.
Yeah.
And
So crazy.
God, going back to the ADR thing, even though there's so much stuff ADR'd, there was at least one, and there might have been more, one point where they just didn't care. Because remember when they did like the quote unquote like live feed of Chun-Li like releasing that truck down the hill?
Yeah.
She takes off the
Oh,
mask
yeah.
and she smiles and stuff. The whole like the last 3 or 4 words, like she doesn't say anything on her face, but the dialogue keeps going.
Yeah.
It's like they just decided to change the dialogue completely, not cut away, and not fix it in post.
Yeah.
So weird. That's so
Or like
weird.
maybe they cut the dialogue first, and then like they just didn't get the full thing when they were
Something.
I don't know. Who knows?
It was weird too because it's like you didn't have to include that weird part for her. You could just cut to the truck rolling down the hill. That's
would have been. I mean, there were so many moments like that for me. Like whoa, that was a weird cut. Like, why did they do that?
Yeah, there was a lot of those like nodding at something ambiguous, as you know.
And then the over sexualized like ways that they read their scripts.
It was super interesting. Yeah, like when Vega and Sagat were in prison, that first shot, they're so close to each other over each other's shoulders and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Sagat was actually smoking cigarettes. Like, did they just screw? Is like that? Is that what we're?
He could have had his like finger up his butt the whole time. They were so close.
I love that. Geils not just American, but it's like I feel like G.I. Joe did this too, to where they're like, hey, okay, we're going to send this movie around the world. We can't have them being American. Let's have like a United Nations kind of feel to this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just funny.
It was a Team America.
Exactly.
The closest thing that they had to like being like the global tournament, which is actually the whole thing of Street Fighter, is the Global Warrior or whatever, was the global TV network or whatever that ChunLi was a reporter for.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the original game or not.
I don't remember that.
At least not in the couple that I had. At least I had Super Street Fighter on Super Nintendo, so I used to love that game too. Like, I had there's a controller that came out at the time, and it was called the Turbo Touch 360, I think, and it didn't have buttons. It just, when you put your thumb down, that's when it started working. So, and it was like basically an octagon, and you just kind of moved your thumb around.
That's cool.
And like the commercials were like, "You're gonna be amazing," and they're showing that really hard move that Zangief does. That you have to do like the 180 kind of circle.
Oh,
And it's like the hardest move in the game to actually accomplish, especially with a normal like D-pad. And so they're like, look at this, and like, oh man, I really want to do all these moves. And like I got this thing, and it was like the worst thing ever. It didn't, and you had to take your thumb off the controller constantly, or if not, you're going to be walking one way or the other. So
total fail.
it was useless. So
The other thing I wanted to talk about was the representation of the fighters from the game, their fighters' moves, game versus movie. There was a lot of like representation of that, and some were weaker than others, and obviously there wasn't that much.
But it was
special effects.
It was all pick and choose though. Like
Right.
Ryu doesn't say Hadouken, and he does something that's vaguely similar to it. But Cammy does her scissor kick and yells it.
yeah.
And then what were E Honda? We see him do the hand slap.
Yeah. Ken's was the worst. Ken did like the
He couldn't even jump up. Yeah, the hurricane thing.
Yeah, he did the Hiruken and the hurricane kick.
Yeah.
But it cropped it weird, like it was trying to hide. I mean, obviously it was hiding something, but
Yeah, like they couldn't do the shit.
He didn't even come off the ground at all with that punch.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was weird.
We all shouted out like, sorry. Oh, that was it. That was terrible. What else was there? There was obviously the big one is Bison flying across the screen, but
Yeah. Trying to add something from the game, I'm sure.
Van Damme, Geils, the backflip kicks.
the Sonic boom kick.
Sonic
Yeah.
boom
Oh,
kicks.
yeah.
He did two of them in a row for some reason.
And then what else was
then
there?
that one weird shot where it had to have been in his contract because it didn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the movie, where he did the kick in Bison's face and it repeated it 3 times from 3 different angles.
That's the Van Damme kick. That's
Yeah.
that legendary. Every single movie
Yep.
he's in, he does this like where his legs like go open.
Yeah.
And you're just staring at his crotch because his legs are split. But he's kicking the dude twice in the face, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
Everything's over sexualized in this movie too. It's crazy.
They really tried to ground this movie in like an actual real world. And I think that's the one thing they shouldn't have done. I mean, if it's going to be crazy and going to have people fighting, they have all these crazy moves with like Hadoukens and who knows what. And like, characters like Blanca and Dalsim, where they're out there. All of the characters are out there with all these moves. Why not just make it in some like universe, where this stuff can happen?
Right.
That's what I couldn't figure out is I couldn't figure out the rules to this universe because from the beginning everybody's like over the top personality wise, and then by the end they had these hints of these superpowers.
Yeah.
But like they didn't commit either way. It's like they were like it's like that. You know, the friend that keeps backpedaling whenever they tell you something like, "Oh, if it were up to me, I do this, blah blah blah." And you're like, "Okay, do it." And they're like, "I mean, I not now."
Be like, "Well, you know,
my ankle's sore."
That
So
Veronica Vaughn.
I just made a sandwich."
so like I was like, "Are you gonna do it or are you not? You got to tell me what the rules are here in this universe." Like, it was like I thought with Dalsim. So that was just so disappointing. Like to mention him, to bother mentioning him, and then like not have him do any of the things.
Anything.
Like he used to blow fire, stretch. You know, like
I was gonna say Dalsim was a stretch,
but yeah, not really. It was the only thing that wasn't a stretch. But they went to the trouble of showing that mutagen stuff spilling on him too.
Yeah.
right.
And then nothing came of it.
You even gave him a way to stretch.
But then he was bald, and we got no explanation why.
Yeah, I remember that whenever I saw it at the beginning or when it came out, I was like, why is he bald? Why is this? Why did we not see anything from him if this stuff's going on?
Because he could have just been bald from the beginning. He's just been a bald scientist. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know like why, but I don't remember if Dalsim was ever supposed to be. I think he was a yogi in the game.
Yeah, I think he's from India.
Yeah, well, I know he's Indian, but I mean, I think he was like a yogi, like a master, like a
Yeah.
like I don't think he was a doctor or anything necessarily.
No,
He was
not
a
that I
master
know.
masturbator.
because he had the skulls around his neck. Like he was kind of like a witch doctor almost, kind of vibe.
Yep.
Exactly.
Every move he'd say yoga in front of it. Yoga
Yeah,
flame,
that's
yoga
right.
fire.
And he had no pupils. Like the whole thing was like he was some sort of like deity almost.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like all the stuff in this game is definitely like super, influenced. I just don't know why they couldn't separate that and just let's just do something fun. I mean, Mortal Kombat is immediately that, So
Yeah, they're just like fuck it, it's ninjas.
yeah,
Like
Ninjas with superpowers.
And that was so Blanca. I didn't even think about this until we watched it this time. But the whole Blanca situation is the Martha of this movie.
yeah.
So we got upset with Batman v Superman with Martha, but Street Fighter 2 did it first, or Street
Yeah.
Fighter the movie did it first, because
with Blanca.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing: is I do remember Guile always had his friend Charlie. He was either friends with or avenging in the games, and Blanca's first name was Carlos. I remember that from the bio screens in the arcade. When they were like, "Oh, Charlie is Blanca," because Charlie could be short for Carlos. I was like, "Oh, I guess that's clever." That does not check out whatsoever. Like, because like especially in the '90s, where it's like things were international, but like a lot less than it is now.
Yeah.
Like the game presents that all these people are like complete strangers, completely cut off from each other because of their localities. So like E Honda being from Japan means that he doesn't know Guile besides fighting, because Guile's American. He's like G.I. Joe.
Right.
Yeah.
And so G.I. Joe doesn't know Brazilian Blanca, who's presumably living in the forest, some sort of like monster of electricity and stuff, And so like they just took it and you're like, oh, they grew up as best friends and served with each other. Like, what the heck? Like,
Then the evil Russian person turned him evil, turned him into Blanca.
Yeah.
but then that was a whole other thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Was when Guile was on the news. I get that they're trying to play him as being arrogant and everything, but he's like, Charlie, I'm coming for you. It's like, why would you fucking sell out your friend like that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're Charlie. Well, I guess that gives him a reason not to kill him because he was killing those other guys. Like, yeah, just fight me.
Yeah, but I mean, still, like, if I had like if Vince got kidnapped by like the Shadow Lu, I wouldn't be like, my friend and bandmate, whom I care about, is in your possession.
And I'm gonna come get him.
that you could use against me. Like.
I love like going back to the boat scene. Like they got this weird like 80s sounding track going on in the background.
God, yeah.
And then he puts in a videotape so that he can look at the last like second of him hanging out with his friend Charlie. I'm like, why? You're in the stealth boat. You're getting ready for a mission. You want to be sad again before you go in? What's going on?
That was something I pointed out to Vince. I was like, that moment that they put in there of him putting the videotape in place of a cassette tape, like led me to believe that the imagery that they were showing to Blanca when they switched it to the pleasant imagery, and for some reason Martin Luther King, was coming from the boat, right? Because to me, it was like, oh, he put this videotape in with Charlie in like a wedding or something like that.
It segued right into
and
it.
it segued into the thing. It's like, okay, so somehow he's transmitting over there. And then Vince was like, no, that's Dalsim. I'm like, well, yeah, but
Yeah, I think he's the one who's
with such weird details that they put
It was
within close
confusing.
proximity of each other.
right.
They made you
of,
think it might be actually connected, but it's probably not.
at that point, we were both like, well, could be both.
Yeah.
Like, God knows. Maybe like Dalcium intercepted it and then had to accept in order to get it to start or something. I don't know. But speaking of the soundtrack or like any type of music, this whole soundtrack was crazy. I actually kind of dug it.
I dug the soundtrack, yeah.
It was like Ice Cube,
MC Hammer, Far Side,
Salt and Pepper or something like that.
No, they didn't have Salt and Pepper. They had Angelique Kidjo, which is a super surprise. She's international. She's like an international superstar, like from Africa.
Kylie. Oh yeah.
That was the second CD I ever got. Was this?
I remember
CD for the soundtrack for this.
I thought it was ironic though that they didn't have a Kylie Minogue song on there.
That's true. Yeah, she was great eye candy.
She's in the movie.
Yeah.
But she didn't have her song, and she was like the height of her like pop career,
And Agent Melinda May.
And she did a good job. I love how like all these smaller characters, whether it be Balrog or T-Hawk, like there's just or even E Honda a little bit, to where they're like they need to try to establish some information about them so you care about them, and they're like just throwaway lines like he ruined my boxing career and all this stuff. And at T-Hawk, they're like. He's like, I wear this because blah blah blah.
Good luck. Yeah,
good
you
luck.
brought 3 of them.
Like,
You had said something about that.
T-Hawk, so he was one of the worst castings. There was a bunch of like this.
Yeah.
T-Hawk was not nearly big enough.
Yeah, he was like a tiny guy.
Like I felt like that his whole thing in the games was that the reason he was a fighter was because he was unusually large. He was like a Zangief, but Native American.
DJ's real small too. I mean, he looks like he's not even a fighter in the movie, but
Yeah, he's always real tall and big.
Yeah.
I did like how they I always got the impression from the game that DJ was a smartass, and they definitely portrayed that in the movie.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I said, "Oh, DJ is the audience," and then by the end, it played true, kind of like ironically that like he got duped, and I'm like, I feel like he does right now
Yeah.
with this movie. Because I got about 20 seconds at the end of what I felt like Street Fighter, like the moment they all made the pose.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, together.
I was like, that's what the movie should have been from the beginning.
just them posing.
Just commit to the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
I really think like they could have made a better movie if they were like, we need to form a team to go into this thing, and we went around the world and basically challenged people to fight. And if basically they could put up against us, then they can be part of the team. And they just went around the world picking all these people up, and then they'd fly in. Like it'd make more sense than this crazy hodgepodge of just like throwing people together. Like you couldn't half the time you couldn't even follow it. Like you're like, what's going on? Why are they over here? Like we know the game, and so we're like, oh, we know who these people are. But like it doesn't. If you didn't know the game, you wouldn't have any idea what's going on.
The another great scene that I loved was just watching Bison snap people's necks and throwing them down into that hole.
That got me. That was part of the whole thing. I don't know the rules of this universe.
Yeah.
Because is he just supposed to be strong?
Yeah.
Like, because
I have no idea.
Like you said about the painting himself thing, he kind of comes across as a dork.
Right.
And he's just like a strong political figure. He's like the Shadowloo Donald Trump, you know? And but then like in this opening scene, they like kind of portrayed him as being, like a super strong, like a super soldier or something like that,
Just doing something else. Yeah, keep going.
So I was like, I don't know what the rules are here.
It's funny about just what you're saying. You don't know what the rules are. There was a point where Guile comes out. He like survives, and Cammy, they're like both looking at each other, and he realizes she's tearing up, and he puts her hand out and puts it on her chin, and I'm like, this would be like the perfect dude moment, like to kiss the girl, and he just like looks away and goes over to the two dudes and was like, high five, guys. And he's like hanging out over next to the guys. I was like, yo, what happened to the little like romance that could happen?
But the thing is, he had no romantic interest with any of the characters.
I think
ChunLi the most, at least. Like he was like, that's one great woman or whatever. Like when she escapes.
Oh yeah,
but that was weird though. Is
ChunLi.
Like because of the way the rest of everything else worked outside of that scene, it came across to me as just like a dude bro being like kind of impressed that she got away.
Yeah.
I always laugh at times in these 90s or 80s movies when stuff like that happens, when like the guy like ignores the girl and then goes like celebrates with the guys.
Oh, like Die Hard.
Yeah. And it's always like the bromance was hotter than the actual like
So that's kind
romance.
of what I got from this movie, was that when you're talking about them being grounded in reality, it's like did Die Hard come out after this?
No,
This was
that has to be
94.
before. This is almost Die Hard 3 by now.
Yeah. Okay. So this was definitely so when I mentioned many podcasts ago that I missed like the '90s action aesthetic.
Yeah.
This was pretty much it. Like even the way they mixed like most of the female characters' voices, like especially Chun-Li's, like she's kind of like she's not soft spoken. She's like she's kind of aggressive, but like soft. She
has like that that female format,
and then the like sarcastic delivery kind of with every single line, and everybody kind of look vaguely sweaty with some like burn marks on their skin, But it seemed like they were like, okay, we're gonna have Street Fighter, but it's gonna follow most of the Die Hard rules. They're like, okay, like that's kind of like the vibe that you get with this. Also on like an eighth of the budget.
Yeah,
there was like random blood too, and the spit scene.
Yeah, that didn't look like spit on his shoulder.
Where like it cuts back to Ken, and it looked like he got shat on by a bird. It's supposed to be like spit.
I thought that him and Ryu had some fun time.
Oh, right? Gosh. Maybe he like splooged all over his shoulder. Ken Masters. Oh,
I don't know. It's like you said, Josh. Like, had you not known the characters beforehand, I wouldn't have known that they were supposed to be associated with each other.
Yeah,
it was like a Sense8 episode.
Yeah, but I somebody out there who knows Street Fighter lore better, let me know. But I don't think that they were necessarily like close friends in the game. I thought they were more like I thought they were like friendly rivals.
But they do all sleep
they were
together.
Both trained by, I think, the same person. I think
I remember
Splinter?
that.
I can't remember if like one was actually a trainer of the other. I can't remember if that's true or not. There's actually, I was reading a little bit before we got on here about the lore. Apparently after 2 there's actually quite a bit of lore, but it's all crazy convoluted. Like 5 comes before 4, and 4 comes after 3. It's just weird. Like, or 4 comes before 3. It's
like the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, it's a little wacky. So
or the X-Men series was. X-Men.
Well, I don't even think that they intended to have any real storyline. This game was just a really good game, had really good controls. All the people worked well together. There wasn't someone on this game that you could fight with and not be like, oh, I could probably win against someone else. Like then some of these games, like some people are really good and some people are just awful. But it's pretty well rounded in all the characters. So
I love Capcom.
The lore for Ken and Ryu that I remember was that they were both trained under Shenlong.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they were necessarily like close friends. Like they weren't like Double Dragon. I think that but they weren't necessarily like rivals either. They were just kind of like always competitive. But the whole thing is Shenlong was also like a troll from Capcom. He never existed, but to this day they keep teasing him as a secret character.
That's cool
in the game, and to the point where I think like EGM magazine or something like that, like even featured like a whole April Fool's Day like spread, made artwork and everything, and like Photoshop. Well, this is before Photoshop. They like put him into the game screen caps and stuff to the point where all of us kids we thought he was real. We spend like lots of money at the arcade trying to get this character.
Wow!
I just read here online that Geils it has. Ken Masters is his brother-in-law.
Huh. I don't know if I remember that.
I don't. That's probably much later. I don't think that's in these 2 games. So I don't know.
Wonder if that lore was part of the cartoon movie,
possibly.
The anime.
Yeah,
something like that sounds familiar.
I feel like they just kind of after the second game, there really wasn't that much lore, and they were just kind of like, "Oh wow, Mortal Kombat has a little bit of lore. Hey, let's actually try to get some in here." And all the games after 2 was just weird anyway.
So,
go ahead.
This is interesting. I was curious. I looked up the guy who played Zangief because what is he doing now? He's from Philly, of course.
Nice.
So he's 6'5".
Man, he looks like the character.
He's a bodybuilder. But he said he was on a vacation visiting a friend in L.A. and he got spotted by a talent scout. It's like that story that doesn't happen. And then Joel Silver hired him.
That's crazy.
For a movie with Bruce Willis.
Wow, that's great.
But it also looks like Street Fighter might be the most notable thing he's done. Besides, it looks like he was in he played Leatherface in a couple of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. And
that's huge in horror industry.
And he was various villains in other movies. Or it looks like he was in Lois and Clark as one villain for one episode.
So not a bad career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I loved all the line, like the one-liners in this movie, or even like the small speech that Geil gives, where he's like, "Who wants to go home and who wants to go with me?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like just all these
Fuck the government.
or even Raul Julia as Bison, where he's like, for you, like, that was the worst day of your life, but for me, it was just Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
That was the one line I did remember from the movie. That was like, you know what? Whoever wrote that line did not write the rest of the script.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that was rough. Like I have no emotional connection with Chun-Li throughout the entire movie, even though I was supposed to.
If he could have fought, like, I really feel like he would have been like really, really close to actually what the game was. And I think he was a great actor in the movie, and I think he fit like the look. But I'm sure because he was so sick at that time, like, that he just couldn't do much.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that Raul Julia was like the perfect casting, but I get it. Like, he was a big name at the time.
Yeah,
he doesn't strike me as Bison at first.
But also, this was a different take,
Yeah.
Because like I said, like, I'm used to, like, he's jacked. He is like a super soldier kind of thing.
And like really Russian looking.
Kind of. Was he supposed to be Russian?
I don't know. Every time I've seen like the cartoons, he always has like the bigger nose and like he's always tall.
He almost needs a monocle.
Yeah, I guess he always kind of had this like vaguely communist look because of his outfit and everything. But he also, like, his name wasn't Bison though. Was it Balrog?
Who?
M. Bison is not supposed to be his name, because M. Bison was actually Balrog's name, because it was supposed to be a play on Mike Tyson. So it was supposed to be name was supposed to be Mike Bison in M. Bison in the game, and then they swapped those 4 boss characters' names because
That's crazy.
wait, hang on a sec. M. Bison's original name. It was like Vega or Balrog or something. Original name. Yeah, so wait. M. Bison. Mike Bison was the boxer. Balrog was what we know as M. Bison.
Okay.
They just got lost in translation.
Wait, what? Other names in wait, what? Okay, so the original. So M. Bison was the name for the boxing character that was Balrog. Vega was the name of the final boss that we know as M. Bison. Balrog was the name for the claw person that we know as Vega.
Oh wow, that's all mixed up.
Yeah.
They swapped them around because like that was how it was in Japan, and then when they ported it to America, they're like, okay, too many copyright things about trying to get Mike Tyson in this whole.
True.
So they kind of shifted the names around, but it makes sense that a name like Vega would have been the final boss character.
Interesting.
However, Vega does kind of fit the Vega. Like, his look just now.
Yeah, I get it. Like I said, I thought he was one of the best castings in the movie.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty face.
even his story kind of fit. Like I didn't see, he was one of the ones that I didn't feel disjointed. Him and Zangief, I was like, yeah, that seems like those people.
Yeah.
He's a cage fighter. The whole reason he had the mask on is because he's so vain that he wants to cover his face.
You're so vain.
I love Zangief like turn into good at the end. Like, he's just too stupid to know that he's working for a dictator killing people.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting paid?
Guy? You're getting paid?
See, you know what was interesting? I don't know if they meant to do this, but it kind of painted this like social commentary on, like, because M. Bison did present throughout most of the movie that he was trying to like fight for like some sort of like a hive mind, and in his mind it would have been a better world because it would have been like Bisonopolis or whatever stupid name he called it.
Yeah, that was silly.
But it reminds me of like kind of actually 2020 politics. Like, no, the world that I'm dreaming of is the best, even though it doesn't benefit anybody but me.
Exactly.
It's like, oh,
No,
okay,
I'll
so
bring
timely.
in the utopia,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, but I don't know. There was so many characters that just didn't pay off the way that you want. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is very true. I feel like all of them lacked what I wanted. Like, each of the characters, especially ChunLi, because I really love her as a character. I think it's always important to bring across the real feelings of when you're playing it in the arcade, is like she's flipping around, she's kicking with her legs. Like, we want to see that in the movie.
Oh wow! So I just looked up the actor that played Vega, and I don't know if any of you guys are familiar, but there's a YouTube series called Superpower Beatdown.
Yeah.
And I've heard of it.
So it's really cool. They usually get like stunt actors to portray different characters, and then they play out. I think the end result is based on a vote with the audience who would win in a fight. And I think was it like Batman versus Scorpion or something like that was one of them. And so there's an episode with Ryu versus the Green Ranger, and I think for the Green Ranger they actually got what's his face?
Tommy.
Yeah,
What's his face? I don't know his real name.
Be because I think he owns the outfit and the rights to use it or something. So he actually plays himself a lot.
Isn't his name like Michelle?
Oh gosh.
So
I should know this.
So in the Ryu versus Green Ranger episode of Superpower Beatdown, that actor plays Vega in that episode as well.
That's cool.
That's interesting.
Jason David Frank.
Yes.
Which is funny because he played Tommy, but his name was Jason.
Oh, yeah.
He'll always be Michelle to me.
Oh, I loved all the little things going around in the background though. Like it almost was like an airplane. Like there's always something going on like over the intercom or something, and it was just there's so many little things you can peel away from the movie Airplane that's just hilarious. Like there's like stuff like this all the time where I was like, if somebody throws a hand grenade at you, don't run, throw it back.
Yeah.
So a couple other ones were like,
Yeah, I remember
cruise
one where they were
missiles
like
for sale, you know.
Oh yeah, that like it was in the market where they were reselling all the UN or not the UN, the AN stuff. Yeah, you have to attach your own like bomb or something.
Yeah.
The one that caught me was like on the female voice in the Shadowloo headquarters. They're like, just a reminder, you are responsible for your own healthcare.
Exactly. That's great.
Which that
great.
was pretty funny because it was like the idea that you would join as a dispensable soldier in like a world, basically a Nazi, right?
Yeah.
And then like the thing you don't get health insurance.
But it was like a Power Rangers like Nazi because like all those helmets were like awful.
Well, it's like a stormtrooper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're basically going into this thing where like, you know, even if you don't know that you're going to die, all of us know because you're dispensable. You're going into a combat situation. You know, I guess that's not too far from the truth though, because like that maybe that's a accidental commentary on like vets in the United States or something, you know,
or like some just darkness. Yeah.
Like I said, like it's this movie, like it goes like so far one way, and then it's like, oh no, let's go back to the real world. Like no, I like the fun world better. Let's go that way. You know?
Did you watch?
Let's go back to the boat.
Did you watch the credits?
No, I didn't have time.
They had so many. They had all. I'm assuming they were outtakes, or I don't know if they meant on purpose of all those announcements.
Oh, I didn't even know, man. I gotta watch that now.
They didn't make any sense to me. It was like there was radio announcers, and it was like dad jokes.
Yeah. It's weird, silly.
It's something like well, this morning when you wake. Well, no, they couldn't have been outtakes because they were talking about the end of the movie. They're like, you know, it's like, well, maybe M. Bison has something to think of it. Aha, from his grave. He was like, was that a laugh thing? We were supposed to like.
Gosh.
And then you see his hand.
Then the very end, the computer brings him back to life. Like there's going to be a sequel.
Oh gosh.
Like
it's so dumb.
But he died in real life.
No, but see, their logic behind how he got brought back to life at the end of the credits was that the solar panels were recharging.
Oh my goodness.
That was the explanation. Solar panel one.
One battery was operational. And then when they initiated the restart, it was successful. And that's when you see his hand bust through.
It's so weird because like I think so I looked at the rental versus the buying, so I'm just gonna buy this because like if I end up liking it kind of, then I'm gonna like regret. I'm not gonna get it because I already spent $4 on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily worth $15, but I think if I watch it again from now on, I'm literally just gonna start it like 45-50 minutes in.
Yeah, the third act is definitely the best.
Because it gets close. Like
took forever.
I would love this to be like a nostalgic thing where like, oh, remember 90s movies when they take the entire movie to become the characters we knew? I didn't like that then. I still don't like it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the only characters I liked like that I thought were spot on were like the ones like Vega who were he was Vega from the beginning.
Yeah.
Even M. Bison. He was M. Bison from the beginning, sure.
Mm-hmm. And he had the outfit. He looked like M. Bison. You knew who he was, you know?
Yeah.
Zangief, even though I think he didn't take off his shirt till the end kind of deal.
Yeah.
And also, you know, Ken and Ryu, like they didn't get their like, I don't know, their colors until the end, but it's also, they're just like everybody else in the in the community gym there and Bisonopolis or whatever.
Yeah. I think, I mean, if I was a hardcore Street Fighter fan, I wonder if anybody's listening that's a hardcore Street Fighter 2 fan, was it upsetting the reason they gave people outfits? Because, like, Ryu and Ken, the backstory of them getting their outfits being that it was actually like an M. Bison uniform sounds upsetting.
Yeah.
And like Chun-Li's outfit coming from basically being a concubine?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That outfit was given to her.
It wasn't good. It looked like it was forced on her. Like she was
Yeah.
being prepared to like go service M. Bison after the fight, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they made an allusion to it that like M. Bison's Bisonopolis was part brothel.
Yeah.
It's like, what if I could pay you and more? And these two girls come out behind the veil. I'm like, no, not right now. It's like, every dude is rejecting women right now.
I know.
This
All
doesn't
of
make
that was
sense.
so funny to me.
I loved the part where Chung-Li like breaks in or whatever, and like she's gonna go look for some information or whatever it was, and she finds Guile under the sheet, and it's like, wait a minute, this is movie logic. How long has he been waiting there, and how did he know who's coming?
I said that when we were watching, I was like, was he just waiting for somebody to show up?
Taking a nap with the blanket over his face.
He's
She'll
like,
be here
haha, my
soon.
scheme worked. Yeah.
I think
like-
she's gonna come find me.
This works out the plot so well.
Exactly. Makes no sense in real life.
You know,
Plot.
something I did like that was accidental or like not intentional for them was and this is kind of 90s but also kind of B movie, is that like everything was clearly a set, you know? Mm-hmm. So for example, this happened a lot of times, but one thing I remember the most was when E Honda finally like ripped his shirt off and became E Honda, and then he like bust through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah.
And those bricks, like I genuinely believe that wall at Bisonopolis was made of styrofoam.
Yes.
Yeah.
From that thing, because they had no weight to any of the blocks
There's
that he
like dust
knocked out.
and shit. It was
Well,
weird.
even just like it's like a brick would like he busts through, and then something one of the blocks or bricks that was falling would like fall on his shoulder, or just like roll off like it was made of styrofoam or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked bad.
But I like that as the kid. Like that's the kind of stuff I kind of wanted to see more of in this movie, is that go all the way that way.
Yeah, so I'm saying
Yeah.
like if it would have went all the way to that like odd, funny, like the video game era, like rather than trying to ground it in real life, it would have been much more enjoyable.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of want the movie to be from like DJ's point of view after the fact, just because the whole time you remember when M. Bison was kind of giving like his big like third act villain monologue. He was like, and the defeat is now a probability, but we will stand together. And meanwhile, in the background, DJ's like, shimmy
sneaking
off. He's like, nap time for DJ. Like,
Peace.
And then everybody just keeps missing each other, but in real life, they would have seen each other. Like DJ went to the vault to steal the money that he found out later. It was like the Bison bucks.
Yeah.
But like 2 seconds later, Ken runs in. Like, you would have run to each other in the hallway.
Yeah.
Getting to this room, being that close to each other. Once again, would have been fine, except they had already established all this realism, supposedly.
It's really funny because like you got like the Allied nations or whatever versus Bison and his crew, and both of them are very they have a million different nationalities and everything in them. Like it's just like, oh, we got a Jamaican guy, we got a guy from India, we got a guy from here and there, like China, like we got a Samoan, we got like it's just all over the
trying
place.
to represent
Seriously,
the
like,
world.
Which I get because that was kind of part of the game.
yeah.
But
It's just
yeah,
funny that it doesn't feel like it fits together,
Like the Olympics.
no, DJ was like like moderately offensive stereotype of he wasn't quite as bad as like a Jar Jar Binks or something, but,
Yeah.
No.
but like it was just kind of like, okay. The only thing they could have done worse was just like have him like throw on some reggae music and smoke a joint or something.
Yeah.
I
That guy's like,
that.
great news. No, that's horrible news. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love the moments with Zangief that are still memeable to this day. People who've never seen the movie will see these Zangief memes where he's like, hurry, change the channel.
Oh, yeah.
But his face
change the channel.
reminds me of like Vince when he says stuff. He's like, hurry, change the channel.
All the eyes
Yeah.
and
Oh, man.
the truck is, it's flying towards the base. And everybody's staring at the screen. It's so funny.
She had time to set up all these like video stuff for him to watch and all this other stuff. Still doesn't like do anything. Like, oh, I destroyed your weapons. Why don't you just kill him? Like,
Yeah. It was definitely like a kid's bop revenge story.
like,
'Cause
oh,
even
we're all
when-
caught afterwards.
Yeah, it was even when they got cut and whipped and stuff at the end. It was like, so the whips on like, the whip marks on E Honda's back and stuff is like, I don't know where I see the blood, but I don't see the cuts.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's got to still be
drawn on.
PG-13 or whatever for kids.
Yeah. Which that part wasn't bad. I mean, all that stuff is part of that 90s aesthetic that I kind of mentioned before. Mm-hmm. It was most of my problem was of like, I couldn't, like you said, I couldn't follow the story or like the in-story logic.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to tell me what line of thought I'm following here. Like, do they have superpowers or do they not?
Well, kinda. I wonder if Screen Rant's done a pitch meeting for this yet, because this would be like ripe for a pitch meeting. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the pitch meeting would be as long as the movie.
Yeah, to explain all the crap that's in it is just
I mean, it was at the end. It was kind of fun, but like I said, I think if I watch it again, I'm just gonna skip the first act and a half at least.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Venom. I'll have it on the background while I'm like cleaning, which is happening a lot nowadays. You know, like cleaning or like reorganizing something and stuff. But I don't think I'll watch it intently like I did this time to make sure I caught stuff.
If it's not for the comedy, I would have not enjoyed it.
That's true.
So.
True that.
Dude,
yeah.
the action sequence. I hope that whoever choreographed the fights got better, because every fight scene was so disappointing.
Yeah, especially the one versus M. Bison. But you got to know that like he was so sick at that point in time, like to take full advantage of that, I'm sure would not have been cool.
Well, not just that. You could tell the whole movie just had this thing, you know, where like the movie's called Street Fighter.
Exactly.
And
There's no real fights in it.
Yeah, it felt like they didn't have a fight coordinator.
For sure.
They had a couple cool vignettes, you know, of like, oh, he's going to scissor kick and she's going to do a backflip.
The most we saw really was the Ken and Ryu, whatever.
Yeah, but even then, when there was those fights, that should have been like, you know, with a movie like that's called that has fighter in the name,
Yeah.
should have been like Crouching Tiger level like choreography, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Should
they
have
really
been
needed like some kung fu
if
movie.
nothing else in the story made sense. We should all been like that fight scene though.
Yeah. Something to take away.
There's not a single fight scene in the movie we can been like, oh, Street Fighter had that one fight scene.
Yeah.
That's kind of messed up.
The only one I can remember is the Godzilla one.
Yeah, and even the Mortal Kombat movie, that I didn't love it, but you know most people did, like, you know, outside of the franchise Mortal Kombat were like, oh, that was, you know, I think Josh, you said your grandparents liked it or something.
Yeah.
It's like even that movie, it was all right, but that everybody talks about like, man, that fight scene between Johnny Cage and Scorpion.
For me, it was
badass,
seeing that thing come out of Scorpion's hand the first time.
Yeah, but well, I'm talking about the fight choreography.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
fight scene with Johnny Cage and Scorpion.
It was good.
Like everybody talks about that
Yeah.
now, you know, and
Yeah.
I think they even added it after the fact, right? Because even they knew, they're like, we can't have a fighting movie without like a really dope ass fighting scene, you know? Like,
Well, I also think that like Mortal Kombat in general, the story, the plot, where it's kind of, you know, it's based in the universe, it makes more sense. Mm-hmm. And you're already in the costumes, you're already in everything else. It doesn't really matter.
yeah. I wish that they were in the Mortal Kombat movie. They were in the costumes more, but we'll talk about that whenever we go back and watch that. But the Street Fighter stuff, yeah, I just wish that they would like. I want to see the movie that started at the end pose of this movie, like what happened directly after that. You know,
Yeah.
because it's kind of. Did you see the Gem movie, Josh?
Oh, yeah. I remember I got the
Oh, that's right.
I took the girls to go see it for free. At
So-
one of those, you know, whatever watch things for the company.
Did you see the after credits
I think so. Yeah.
with Kesha?
Yeah.
So the moment that happened, I was like, "This is the movie I wanted to see."
Yeah. Why wasn't Kesha in this movie? Like, where's the, you know?
Yeah,
This
the
was the
Misfits.
origin.
But like, the story should have just started with the Misfits, like Gem and all that. That should just have been going on for years.
Yeah.
They decided to take they should have just skipped that whole thing and just started with her being Gem already.
Because like, you know, like talking about knowing your audience with Street Fighter. With this movie, they try to go in, like you said, Josh, like give everybody a reason, and the main characters give them all backstories, kind of like origin stories and stuff. You know, something that most people in Street Fighter lore don't care about is why the fuck Chun-Li can do her lightning kick. They don't care. They just want to see her do it.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, I guess they kind of dropped in the middle of stuff. Like the action started right away. Like
Yeah.
people were kidnapped, all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, every character had exposition. Even Chun-Li. Like they kind of gave a reason later, but she just basically gave the audience exposition, but to M. Bison.
Yeah.
And then that's when he was like, oh, I don't remember that. I was like, okay, so I guess she was trying to like tell him about it. but still it was like a weird thing, and like everybody had a monologue like that. You know, like
you're monologuing. Yeah, should have just killed him. let me show you I can break my chains.
Yeah, right.
Also, she hasn't aged. She's a vampire.
Yeah, dude. She's like Keanu Reeves-esque, you know?
I love it. Love it.
Oh, that Gem movie is on Netflix now.
Okay.
Ugh.
You know what's funny? I don't, you know, I'm not going to out him. I'm not going to say his name, but so one of my good friends, he works on a lot of like different movie stuff. He was actually, I guess you can look him up anyway, but he's a music supervisor for this movie, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know, not supervisor. He did the soundtrack, whatever, however makes sense to that. He did the soundtrack, but none of the songs on the soundtrack are in the movie. Mm-hmm. There's a big licensing thing with Hasbro. Like they couldn't have the original Gem songs in the Gem movie, but they also couldn't have the songs that they curated for the soundtrack in the Gem movie. I don't know how that worked. So he did the Gem soundtrack, and so like that's the reason I watched the movie, because it was on Netflix, and I was like, or not Netflix, Redbox. It was at Redbox, and I was like, well, did this movie, you know, I want to be able to talk to him next time I see him, because he just moved to LA at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I saw it, and then I ran into him at a friend's birthday or something. Oh, his wife's birthday. That's what it was. And I was like, oh, okay. And then that's when I like, okay, Rod, here's your chance. The 15 minutes of Gem knowledge you know from that movie. I was like, oh, so I watched the Gem movie, and then I got to like, so you know, it was all right, but the part where she decided to write the song, and he was like, stop, dude, I didn't even watch the movie. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, he didn't watch it.
So sad too, because you know, I was on forums, I think, at the time, and when it was like, oh, there's going to be a Gem movie, and all these nerds, these dudes that like grew up, who probably at the time were like, I don't watch Gem, but like totally watched Gem. Like they were like, you know, it'd be awesome if it was like based in sci-fi, you know, like, and you could have the holograms, and like, you know, it makes her costume change and all this, like the stuff that's in the show. Like
if they did it right, it would be dope.
Yeah, like people could be interested in like a sci-fi kind of movie like that, but they didn't. It was like a Disney movie.
I remember you mentioning that before, and it makes sense because I was like, oh yeah, because it's all like tech based, right?
Yeah, the whole thing, the whole reason like her ear things change is because like there's like a hologram satellite or whatever that puts a hologram over her body, so people can't see who she is. It's like
Power Rangers, but not from a different planet. It's like her father is Zordon.
I got to figure out. I can't remember what was on before that, because that Gem was one of those things that was created as like the girls' answer to one of the boys' shows.
Yeah.
Not directly, but you know, like something that they could package together in like an hour slot.
Yeah, it was a girl show that came on after a boy show.
So like whatever that aired, I remember. I think like when I finally thought about it, I don't know how any of the Gem episodes ended. Like, I think I only ever saw the setups and then turning into Gem and stuff, and then by then I was playing with blocks again or something.
There's a lot of drama, let me tell you that, because my girl will watch it.
Because I think, like...
It's a lot of fighting, cat fighting.
Because at that age, I was with a babysitter, because my parents both worked during the day and stuff. So she put us in front of the TV, and I don't think it was G.I. Joe, but something like that. Like
I think it was G.I. Joe.
Was it G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
So they put everybody, like all the kids, there was maybe 6 or 7 of us in this like kind of like daycare thing. And we'd all go watch TV, and whatever these two shows were, like Gem and whatever the boys show, G.I. Joe, were so popular that it was just understood it was going to be on that channel, you know? And so then all the boys would go up and watch G.I. Joe, and then as it was ending, like, you know, gradually, like the group would shift, the girls would start filtering in, and the boys would like go play with whatever, you know, like toys or stuff that would get in trouble or something. And so I remember seeing like the setup for so many episodes.
Yeah.
And being kind of intrigued about it, because I was like, why don't G.I. Joes have holographic powers?
I just remember the butler is constantly trying to wrangle these girls. And no, not the butler, the manager.
Yeah.
And the manager is her, like a friend of her father's, but he's young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's like her boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
Or love interest of some sort.
And there's just constant drama, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, like, seriously, if you watch any of it after the first couple episodes, it gets really, really, like, soap opera-y.
You know what it was? It wasn't G.I. Joe, it was Street Fighter. Just to, like, say that buzzword while we're talking about Gem.
Well, speaking of the, like, going back to Street Fighter from what you're talking about with the manager and stuff, I'm genuinely wondering. I want to find some friends. We probably have some friends that we know that either worked on or were in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
I want to find out, like, if whoever wrote it, if there was literally like a studio checklist, you know, because it's like, okay, soldier, main hero, like pseudo love interest, strong female character, down to like the suit that's annoying, but he was so shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
Like that guy telling him that he couldn't like
go.
that they were just going to pay it, you know? And
no
stuff,
war. We're just gonna pay it.
had no bearing on the story.
No. And they tried to
No.
give it a little bit more, like later when they're like, he's like talking to his like higher ups, like, oh no, yeah, they just went. The rest of the army's back at the base, and like they look back at the base, and like they're
Yeah.
just cooking food there, like
It's
a couple
it's
of
a
people.
cook and a cat.
Yeah,
That was funny, but once again, yeah, they never came back to it. They're like, so what happened from that?
made no
Nah,
sense.
you don't need to know,
He got court-martialed. I don't know.
right? He did. He was like, it's not my problem anymore, and then jumped on his
Stealth
tropical
boat.
thunder.
Yeah, no. He said like the guy was like, you got to call your forces off. And he's like, well, some idiot just fired me.
That's right. And then he went all fucking Hulk
Tropic
Hogan.
Thunder. we should watch Tropic Thunder.
There you go.
That show is so dumb.
I like how they make fun of it on The Simpsons, where it's like, quick, there's a fjord or whatever, and they go down the water path or whatever. And like, there's just always a river or a fjord or whatever it is. Like,
There's always water,
there's always water to catch the bad guy.
but the boat, like, I don't know. It's so
You know, it'd be
funny.
interesting. You said Gems on Netflix.
Yeah, I think so.
If it's not Gem, maybe another movie that's on Netflix. We should try this like Netflix party thing.
Yeah,
That syncs the movie for all of us.
that'd be cool.
You know what would be interesting is if we did that and then recorded all our audio independent of the movie so that we don't have the movie in the audio, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tell everybody, like, if you start at this point with us, with the movie,
Huh.
then all of our commentary, we get like MSTK 3000 or whatever, you know, like
Oh yeah.
that. Because you mentioned Gem, and I was like, I don't want to spend an hour talking about it, but it might be funny of all our reactions to the movie.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Or not, even not that movie, just another one. Like Street Fighter would have been funny, you know, or something. instead
Yeah.
of-
I think it'd be more funny if we were like all together too, though, at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like, but
Yeah, that's kind of I'm kind of mixed on both of those. Yeah, that's funny though. I like the idea.
Well, I mean, like, it'd be funny if we could, like, have this correspondence like this where we don't hear each other.
Right.
yeah,
But then have the movie going at the same time. I don't know if the bandwidth can handle it, but just, I don't know, just the commentary on stuff, because I know there's stuff that I missed that during the movie. I was like, what the fuck? Like, when did that happen?
that would be
So
great.
great. I hope you guys enjoy Street Fighter, and we want to hear your comments or read your comments.
If you want to rent it, it's $3.99 on most services, or if you're like me and bought it for $15, then there it is. It's right along the lines of like Super Mario Brothers, the movie,
Yeah,
and it's like not as bad. I don't know.
I actually
Mario
probably
Brothers-
enjoy Super Mario Brothers more.
Super Mario Bros. If you don't think of it as Super
I-
Mario Brothers movie, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I enjoy Super Mario's Brothers more than this movie for sure.
yeah.
So, but this one was
I actually like that movie.
this one was a little weird.
This movie, not so much.
R.I.P. Raul Julia.
I do, on the other hand, love the anime, the
Yeah.
old Street Fighter anime. That has Alice in Chains is one of the songs in it. Like I just love that.
I don't
that
think I've ever
movie.
seen that. I'm gonna have to get that.
Yeah, there was a lot of animated movies that were really good because it is able to give us the characters we knew. You know, like
Yeah.
everybody can be like big and bulky, and you can see
Yeah.
like their muscles rip and the superpowers and
And
stuff.
all the agility and dexterity, whatnot.
I think next
But I
week, what if we do another movie next week? We should do like a little thing at the beginning of like news, because a little bit of news does come out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
let's do it.
Sweet.
And also, what movie we're doing?
I don't know, man. What was I? I was thinking something earlier. I can't remember now. Gosh, Tank Girl.
Oh,
Tank
Tank
Girl.
Girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Look it up. I've never seen it.
That'd be a
That would
good one.
interesting.
I remember loving it, but I haven't probably seen it for 20 years.
Same
Okay.
here.
Let's do Tank Girl. So check in next week for Tank Girl. Also leave suggestions. And I'm interested if you genuinely like the Street Fighter 2 movie or Street Fighter movie, just defend it down below. I mean, you don't even have to think it's good, because I mean, like, I thought Venom was fun, but I think it's a bad movie,
Yeah.
and I have my defenses of that. Same with Aquaman. You know, I think they're horrible movies. But they're fun.
This was a horrible movie that had funny moments.
Yeah, like I could supercut this into a 20-minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like,
Thing.
what's that new thing? Quibi. They could just make that 10 minutes. Here you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's Quibi this. So, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us this week.
That's right. You heard it here on Yellow Spandex. Make sure to come back next time. We'll be talking about what we just talked about, just a second ago. Not the main thing we were talking about, the side thing that we had just said like not too long ago.
Gem?
No, that's too far now. It's too far back. That's the other side thing. So you guys, you come back now.
Come on.
All right, I'm gonna go make a sandwich.